Hello, hello, hello. Let's just see. 2 seconds. We'll give people a couple of minutes to jump on. Oh, I can see a couple of people coming through. Welcome, welcome. Can everyone hear me? Whilst just sort of people are just kind of tuning in. Let's just publish that. Cool. We've got more people coming through. Let's just... It looks super messy over there. Yay. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Let's see how many people we end up coming with tuning into this live. I know last time we got, I think we had about 30 or 40 people tune in live, and then about 200 people tune in later. But we'll see. Anyways, welcome. I am the author. Actually, wait, let me just pull this up 2 seconds. Thanks to everyone who emailed me in questions over the last little while. So thanks to everyone for email me all the stuff you want to know. So I am the author of the book, A New Eden. Actually, it's a trilogy. So let me show you. It's quite cool. So my first book, New Eden, came out last year. Then the second book in the series, A New God, came out last week Wednesday, I think it was, or Tuesday, to everyone tuning in America. And then A New War comes out in about, I don't know, actually, maybe end of the year, maybe beginning of next year. Who knows? We haven't decided on an exact release date yet, but we will see. So can everyone just say hi in the chat? Cool, I can see someone saying, yep, it's working. So thanks everyone for tuning in, and thanks for asking me all of the questions on an email. So I'm just gonna go through all the questions that people are asking. And yeah, so the first question on the list is, how did I publish the book? Well, interestingly enough, I self-published. I was going to self-publish, to be honest. So I was a week away from self-publishing. So I put it up on Reddit and put it up on a whole bunch of sites just to see how people liked it. And then it sort of blew up. About 100,000 people read it in a month. It was very exciting. Lots of comments, lots of engagement. And a week before I was going to self-publish, I started getting all of these people looking at my LinkedIn profile. And they were from Podium, the publisher of the book. And then someone from their team reached out to me, and I was like, oh my God, is this legit? And it was. And so fast forward to sort of 6 months later, they gave me a bit more time. They gave me a bit of an editor to help sort of refine the book. And then, we ended up with a much better book than I had originally wrote. I think I wrote it, and it was about 60,000 words. And then come to publishing, it ended up being about 84,000 words. The second book in the series, A New God, is about 100,000 words. And then the third book should most likely be maybe 120, maybe 140,000 words. It's going to be a lot bigger and a lot grander. Next question on the list is, what inspired me to write A New Eden and A New God? So I guess the initial catalyst of it was I wanted to write something like write a book. I wanted to challenge myself to write a book, and the heart of the book is about the Fermi paradox. So, does anyone, for those who don't know, the Fermi paradox is basically, if we are here in the Milky Way, and we are, our TV signals are sort of leaking out into space. So in theory, other aliens listening and watching should be able to see us or notice us. But the Fermi paradox is basically, why can't you see any aliens? And so the first book, A New Eden, is kind of a solution to that. So what happens in the book is there's a General Walker who is a bit crazy and believes that the reason why you don't see any aliens is because they all have they're all in simulated reality. They've all got their goggles on, and they're all in virtual worlds. And so this character believes strongly that the reason they don't see any aliens is because there's no point exploring space. The space is a limited resource, whereas given the fact that humans see reality through eyes, which are very limiting, you could create a bigger world, a grander world for humans inside of a simulated reality. And so that's kind of the heart of it. The conflict there is, our explorers actually don't agree with that, and they want to go out and explore the world. Walker has control over the government, and so she tries to shut them down, and that sort of launches the story, and they go out into space. And then, book one is, I guess, about them realizing that General Walker is completely wrong, and there's no way. There are aliens out there, and then book two is, I guess, taking that story and that idea a step further. So the solution to the Fermi paradox in this is actually what we learn in this book, is that the reason humanity has gone so far inwards and so far into the metaverse is because there is another alien out there controlling and manipulating us. And it in the book, the word grabby aliens comes up a few times. So grabby aliens is this idea that actually there are probably other human level aliens out there with the same sort of advanced technology as we have. And it is effectively a land grab, an arms race. So we are going to spread out and colonize the stars near us, and the aliens are going to spread out and colonize the stars near them. And eventually we'll meet. Maybe there'll be a war, maybe there'll be some trade, maybe there'll be something else, but basically it's a game of whoever can get to a star system and claim it first wins. And so that's the ethos of the idea behind grabby aliens, and why that's a thing. And so what the aliens that you meet at the end of this book are actually called the Tour, and they were evolved on a star system near us, and they sent out probes to basically manipulate us so that when they were ready to go out and spread, humans would already be docile and already be stuck up in their VR goggles. So yes, that's kind of what inspired me. And then book three is going to be about, the title is A New War, and you can see a planet being destroyed there. So, there's the human race here, and there's the aliens there. So, who knows what's going to happen? You'll have to wait till the book comes out. But yeah, that's essentially what inspired me. It comes down to the Fermi paradox. Next question. How did I come up with the metaverse and the simulated technology in the book? So, luckily I didn't have to do that. Mark Zuckerberg's already done a good job on promoting his metaverse idea. The thing that is fascinating, and so for book two, I did a lot of research about how dangerous those goggles are. So by putting something on your head and by measuring how your eyes dilate, those things can effectively tell you whether you're lying or not. So you could, let's say uh, they were watching you and you were watching, I don't know, presidential candidate or whatever. Those goggles would be able to tell whether you believed that president or not, and whether you were politically aligned with him or not. So that's one thing where those sort of VR goggles, Mark Zuckerberg and Apple can use to understand what you are into. The next thing, which is fascinating, is you can actually use, if you can control exactly what someone's looking at, you can use that to manipulate them. So you could take someone who absolutely hates one political party, and after a good, couple of days using this tool, you could manipulate them into actually liking that political party. And so that's in the book, Atlas does a whole bunch of experiments. In the book, he doesn't talk about political parties, but he talks about liking genres of books, and he manipulates people to like sci-fi who didn't otherwise like sci-fi. I guess the point I was trying to make there is that those things are dangerous, and we need to be careful with them. But yeah, great question. Great. Oh yeah, and so that's how I kind of came up with the metaverse, and then leading on from that, the other question that I sometimes get is the betaverse. How did I come up with the betaverse? So I sort of imagined, Mark Zuckerberg and a bunch of other execs in Facebook coming up with a strategy and going, okay, how do we make the metaverse seem cooler than the real world? And I sort of imagine them sitting down, having a little strategy session, coming up with the idea of calling the real world the betaverse, the beta version of the real world. And the reason they believe they can call it that is because in the metaverse, you can make things so much more fantastical. If I wanted to be a purple unicorn with horns, I could totally do that in the metaverse, but I can't do that in the real world. And so in theory, the betaverse, the real world, is more limiting. It's kind of the beta version of the metaverse. Who is my favorite character? Good question. So I think I really like, so the heart of the story, especially in the first one, is about Trillian, and some of the struggles that she went through. She totally destroyed a planet, and she feels destroyed about that. She's quite torn and sad, and it kind of affects all of the things she does in book 2 and also in book 3. So I like her character journey. I know some people don't like the fact that she utterly destroyed a planet, but I think to me it just shows, it's meant to show how easy doing something like that is, and how once you've got to a certain level of technology, how bad simple mistakes can be to a planet. And so she might be my favorite book character in book 1. Her in book 2, I really liked Angelic. So Angelic just goes boss mode. So I tried to create this character of Peter in the beginning, where he is an utter boss and just takes control of everything and makes a whole bunch of things happen. And then what I then did in the later on was kind of built up to make you think that this is the ultimate character. And then later on in the book, you meet Angelic, who is like boss times 10. She's already colonized, I think it's like 32 planets. Whilst Trillian and Atlas and Icarus are struggling to do one, she's gone out there and just like got a big colony of worlds, and it's quite a good setup actually, because if you think about it, book 2 was about them trying to figure out who had been manipulating them, and then book 3, you can kind of guess, Trillian's now got a whole bunch of worlds at her disposal, and so does Angelic. And when they go to have a big war against an enemy, I think those worlds were come in handy. So yeah. Next on the thing, how did I get Luke Daniels to do the audiobook? Wow. So Luke is actually like the first ever audiobook I ever listened to was Luke Daniels. I think it was Magic 2.0. I think that was the book many moons ago. It was either that, yeah, I'm pretty sure it was that, or Intelligent Investor, maybe, like old school, but back before I listened to, yeah. So maybe he was actually my first non-fiction and fiction book, and so I've always been a massive fan of him. I think he has some of the best female voices for a male narrator as well out there. Like you listen to his female voices and they all sound distinct, which is, I think, a limiting thing in some narrators. And you know, my book, there's a lot of powerful women in it, and so when Podium reached out and said, "Hey, look, who is your like dream person? If you could get anyone, who would it be?" And I was like, "Can I get Luke Daniels?" And then they a couple of weeks later were like, "Yes, we got him." And I was, yeah, so I was over the moon, super happy, super excited. And then when so I held off on listening to the book when the publisher first sent it to me. I wanted to wait till it was like, you know, in the Audible thing, so that everyone was able to listen at the same time. And when I first listened to it, it was like, oh my God, this is amazing. And then so some unique stuff have happened sort of since. And that now when I write particular characters, when I write Atlas or when I write Angelic, the voice that I hear in my head now is the one that Luke created. So yeah, so that's quite a nice thing. It's funny actually, because I find myself, especially in book 3 now, I found myself describing the way someone sounds. So traditionally, I think when I wrote the first book, when I introduced the character, I would focus on only what they sort of look like. But now I find myself focusing on what they look like and what they could potentially sound like to give Luke a bit of a scaffolding to build up on top. But yeah, so I'm a massive fan of his, and I'm so happy and that we managed to get him. I do know that part of the reason why my book has done so well is probably because we got him to do it. Because I know that when you look at a lot of the similar to books on Amazon Audible, it is other books by him. So I know that his fan base have jumped onto it as well. Yeah, because I was really happy with this. This is so I printed this out, but this is the best-selling space operas, and I like the screenshot because at the top you got my book, which I'm happy about. This is when it first came out last year. Number 2, you've got the Expeditionary Force book. It's like the biggest military sci-fi in the world. Number 3, you've got Project Hail Mary, which is the best. It's a god tier science fiction. And then on the number 4, you've got Dune, which again, because of the movie, was book sales went through the roof. And so I just love the fact that with this, I managed to get right alongside all of those other amazing books. Next on the list. How did I research the scientific and technology aspects of the story, and what challenges did I face to making it plausible? A complicated question. I am just genuinely interested in a lot of the stuff. Like my social media of choice are Reddit and YouTube, and I quite like watching sci-fi videos. If you probably watch, if you watch a lot of sci-fi, you probably will get a lot of the name references. I listen to a lot of SFIA videos, and I called out Isaac's name in there. I watch a lot of sci-fi recommendations by Words of Time, and I name drop Jonathan's name in there. I think I'm pretty sure there's a Scott Manley reference. I'm pretty sure there's a Universe Today reference. I'm pretty sure there's a Cool Worlds reference in there. Like those are the kinds of people I really like, and there's no original idea. It's very, very hard to come up with original idea, and often the best so-called supposed original ideas are just ideas taken from another context and applied to a new industry that is completely new. I know the example eludes me, but there's lots of examples where a mathematician introduces something into cosmology and it just absolutely blows up in that industry, even though it's a completely old idea in maths. So there's countless examples, and so I just basically would listen to some of those videos or read some of those posts on YouTube, on Reddit, and sort of ruminate or daydream or think about different ideas, and then sort of incorporate them into my book. So that's probably how I came up with most of it. To be honest, I think that's part of the reason why people like my book. I think, the second book now, it's got a perfect 5 out of 5 score so far. All of the reviews that I've seen talk about how, one, it's better than the first, and two, there is just so many cool ideas and concepts in there. There's, people talk about it's such an interesting take on the Fermi paradox. To my knowledge, I think this might be the first time mentioning grabby aliens in a science fiction book. So, I'm very happy about that. And there's the idea that Atlas is trying to hack into this alien, but he has absolutely no way to no knowledge of how to do that. So all he does is puts the alien virus into a simulation, and then jumps into the simulation and does it 6,000 times to slowly figure this out. Like that is just such a cool idea, and it shows the benefit of it's kind of called a speed superintelligence or a time superintelligence. He could jump into millions of different scenarios at once and thrash them all out, and so he did in in a couple months to a year, what would have taken, several lifetimes. Is the book just the Bob Lewis ripoff, or is it a coincidence that these books are similar? I think that the first one, there's only so many different plots you can do, and I think the first one is a very similar plot. Characters break away and they escape from the planet, and they go out and sort of live in a simulation. But Dennis in my book now, based on the second book, have gone in completely different directions, and I think the direction I've taken my book is way more exciting for what I need it to do. It's a trilogy, but will you be writing more? It's a great question. Will I be writing more than just the 3 that I've got going now? Probably. So I just had a chat with my publisher. We were chatting the other day, and they asked if I had any other books and whether I wanted to continue the series. So we actually have a meeting, I think, is it tomorrow or on Friday next week, where we're going to thrash out some ideas for book 4, 5, 6 in the series, as well as potentially some other cool ideas that I've been sort of thinking about. Like I was in Jamaica last year or beginning of this year, and I had thought of this crazy cool idea, and I really want to write it. The cool thing is, every time I come up with a cool idea, I think it's better than the previous idea that I came up with. And then when I talk to people about it, they tend to agree. So it's quite nice knowing that, hopefully these ideas and this creative writing process will get better and better and better. What's the title of book 3? Well, I've already shared it. It's called A New War. How accurate is the science in the book? Can Facebook, Apple really use VR to manipulate humans? 100% yes. To be honest, Apple has actually said in a statement that they are doing things to make sure people can't manipulate you. So, Facebook hasn't, I don't, to my knowledge, said that, but it's actually quite scary. Like, especially given that Apple's business model is selling you subscriptions and devices, but Facebook's is selling you to advertisers. If if Facebook could sell you to advertisers and make more money off you, I think they would 100% do that. If they, if you think about how much your phone sort of manipulates you into wanting particular products. Imagine that on steroids, where you can basically through the goals brainwash someone into wanting a particular product. I think that is 100% coming, and I suspect that probably the EU will eventually legislate to stop some of the stuff, because it is like literally, if you can, by telling what someone's looking at, you can tell their political base, their fetishes, their internal thoughts, whether they're lying or not. There's so much you can gain by tracking someone's eyes, which is way more intrusive than you could possibly do with just obviously controlling someone's phone. So it's kind of scary. And then the fact that you can then use that, use whatever someone's looking at to sort of manipulate them. I'll share with you the little experiment, but in the book. So and this is an experiment that they actually did in psychology. So what they did was they put up some random words, and behind words they wanted people to like, they would flash an image of someone smiling. It would flash so fast that person couldn't even recognize it. Didn't even understand that was there. But after the sort of looking at all these other words, the word that had someone flashing with a big smile on their face, the subjects in the experiment actually preferred that particular made-up word. And so that was an example, just one example of the many ways you can basically manipulate someone into liking something more, just by controlling what they are looking at. What happens after a new god? I guess we're getting into spoiler territory now. So after new god, the book ends with I wanted to end the second book with what is essentially our smartest and most capable characters facing off against this alien. So you've got Angelic, you've got Peter, you've got Atlas, you've got Ariana, or they're basically face to face with this alien. So you've got like what I built up to be boss level humans facing up against this, alien that claims to be a god. And so I'm not going to spoil what exactly happens, but I wanted to be like deliberate in bringing all of those characters together into the same place, and then having them face off against the alien. So, who knows? They might win, they might lose. Who knows? Someone might die. What inspired you to dive into the realms of science fiction? What do I think sets it apart from other genres? So, science fiction is kind of my genre that I read the most. Like, I do believe that you have to write in genres that you read a lot of. Like, I think if you are going into a new genre that you don't consume much content on, one of the things is you'll run into situations where you think you have a cool original idea, and you're like, oh my god, this is amazing. And then when you read enough books in that genre, you realize actually this story has been played out and done a million times. There's a lot of value in doing the same story as everyone else. And I think, everyone loves a good romance or rom-com or whatever. But I do think that to stand out in a very crowded market, there's so many people writing. You have to at least attempt to introduce something slightly different. So yeah, or write in a slightly less competitive space. So I think I consume enough content around interesting sci-fi concepts that I can put those into a book and combine them in ways that are novel and new for people. So yeah, because I think that is the crux of my books. Like, it's the ideas that I thought were quite cool, and it's me through the characters explaining how these ideas actually work. So many of the conversations are things that I'm just genuinely passionate about or fascinated by, and wanting to sort of explain them. The idea when Atlas and one of the angels or Angelic are talking about how similar all of the aliens shit. Whoop. How similar all the aliens are, mini aliens, and that is them discussing convergent evolution and how, if you were evolved on a rock-based world, you might end up looking very similar to other aliens that evolved on a similar sort of planet. Let's see, we'll go through a couple more questions. Can you share some of your creative process with crafting futuristic worlds and technologies, so that they are both believable and interesting? I think that I think the difference between people who like a bad book and a good book is how easily ideas are conveyed. Like, the way I always describe it is creating a movie inside someone's head. And the easiest way to do that is to ground it in stuff that people are familiar with. And then also invoke two senses. So not just describing what something looks like, but sometimes adding in the smell or the feeling of it. So if you wanted to say someone was on a snow world, don't just say there was snow everywhere. Be like, Atlas felt cold. He started to shiver. He changed his jacket. Something like that to introduce, or you could talk about the breath coming off his mouth. Just introduce other senses. I think help basically ground people in a more believable, make-believe world. I find it interesting that while each character is on their own journey, their paths often intersect to influence each other, interweaving moments. How am I able to do that? 100%. Like, the story is a multiple point of view story, and all the characters have to their stories have to be independent of each other, but they have to intertwine. Otherwise, you're just basically writing 3 different stories or 4 different stories, and combining them into a book. And so, like, if you think about book 2, A New God, everyone, for the most part, is talking about the Dottian system, the war that had gone on. So Peter on the planet is talking about the fact that they've seen this big light show, this excitement, this whatever it was happening in the system, this battle, and they think that Trillian and the others are there, so they want to go check it out. Trillian's there at the moment, and Atlas is talking about the fact that they are everyone's seen this, so she better get off the planet. So she's escaping that planet. And then Atlas and Angelic, it's the closest planet to star system to where they are, and they need to get to the star net to go talk to the others as quickly as possible. And so everyone's going back to the same spot. And so, I thought a lot about how do I bring the characters that I want to be there, and then how do I exclude the characters that I don't want to be there for the big battle in book 3. I think we are running out of time. So if you've got, I know I've kind of skipped over a couple of questions, but I think I've kind of answered it any more. And any other final thoughts people have in the chat? The only thing I would say is, please write me a review. Like, that's probably the biggest thing you could possibly do. Like, to be honest, I'm not the best at writing reviews, and I don't generally do it. But now that I'm author, I realize just how valuable reviews are. So many people don't, they use the review to figure out whether they want to buy a book or not. So yeah, thanks, team. Oh, actually, a couple other questions people did ask, but I wasn't actually going to share it. For you Americans out there, I'm a Kiwi. I'm from New Zealand. I live in Christchurch, which is the middle of the South Island of New Zealand. So that's, I know some people were wondering where I am at. And then hence why New Zealand features a lot in the book. So Angelic is, she's got basically a Kiwi accent, or at least Luke's best rendition of a Kiwi accent. So yeah, thanks for joining in this Ask Me Anything. Thanks, Tim. Ciao.